Today we are making a tote bag with Sunburst granny squares. The materials for this project include white yarn for the base, and I'm using Red Heart Super Saver, and for the colors I'm going to be using Lion Brand's Mandala in the color Warlock. And I went through this yarn and cut it at each color change. So if you want a colorful project but don't want to buy so many different yarns, then you can do this instead. But if you want your bag to be really strong, then I'd suggest using 100% cotton and lining the bag. The Sunburst granny square has 4 rounds. For the first and last round, I'm using white, and I'm using pink and green for the 2 colors in the middle. I also used a 5mm Clover Amour crochet hook, a yarn needle, and a pair of scissors. To do the Sunburst granny square, we're going to start off with a magic circle. And to do the magic circle, hold the tail end of the yarn along the palm of your hand, grab the top and wrap it around 2 fingers, then use your hook to go under and then over, and pull your yarn through. Grab hold of the yarn right here, remove your fingers, and just hold everything loosely. So we want to chain 2. To chain, yarn over and pull through. Again, yarn over and pull through. And then we're going to do 16 double crochets into this circle. To double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Again, to double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through your last 2 loops. So here are our 2 finished double crochets, and we're going to do 14 more for a total of 16. And here I have 16 double crochets, and you can count them by the V's at the very top or by their posts. But make sure not to count your chain 2 as a double crochet. And now we can close the hole in the middle by pulling on our loose end. And we can slip stitch to finish the round. To slip stitch, insert your hook into the first double crochet of this round. So if you look for our chain 2 at the beginning of the round, just count up 1, 2, and then the 3rd V is going to be this stitch. You can also look for the post of the first double crochet. Make sure not to mistake the chain 2 for the post. Just go to the top right of it and there should be a V. Insert your hook underneath both sides of the V, then yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on your hook. And we can tighten. So this is a slip stitch, and we're going to do this at the end of every single round. And now we'll change colors. So I'm going to grab my pink yarn and just loop it around my hook like this and pull it through the loop on my hook. And then I'll tighten the white yarn. And now we can drop it and start working with the pink yarn instead. And here I'm not going to cut off my white yarn just yet because I am going to need it for my last round. If you do this, you'll have 2 less loose ends to hide, but you will end up with a white line in the back. However, it will be on the inside of the bag. Now we're going to chain 2 with our pink yarn. So every round should end with a slip stitch and start with a chain 2. And for this round, we're doing puff stitches. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into, and now make sure that your 2 loose ends are laying over your hook so we can carry it into the piece and not have to worry about weaving it in at the end. And then yarn over, pull through, and we're going to do this pretty loose, otherwise it'll be hard to pull through everything at the very end. And then we'll yarn over, insert our hook into that same stitch again, yarn over, pull through, and again we'll tug on it a little bit, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through for the last time, And we've done that 3 times and we should have 7 loops on our hook. And finally we'll yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And this is the first puff stitch. Chain 1 to close that stitch. So then we'll move on to the next stitch, and to do a puff stitch again, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, and make sure you're going under both loops of the V. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all 7 loops, and chain 1. And we'll do this 14 more times until we have a puff stitch into every single stitch of this round. Since we're carrying the loose ends while we crochet, it can start to poke out onto the other side, and so you just want to tug on it a little bit so that it straightens out. Once you have a total of 16 puff stitches, we can slip stitch to close the round. So again, to slip stitch, we're going to insert a hook into the top right of our first puff stitch. So remember, here is our chain 2, and then right after it is our stitch that we're going to slip stitch into. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through again. And here we can cut off our pink yarn since we won't be needing it anymore. And for round 3, we're switching over to our green yarn. And to attach it, we're going to do the same thing. After we slip stitch, we're going to pull through the loop on our hook with our green yarn. And then we'll tighten the pink yarn, drop it, and start working with the green yarn. And then we're going to chain 2 again. In round 3, we're going to double crochet 4 together 16 times. And we're not going to be working into the stitches, instead we're going to be working into the chain spaces from last round. And for the first stitch of this round and next round, we're going to be working to the right side of the chain 2. To do a double crochet 4 together, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the first chain stitch, and so we're going to the right of our chain 2 from last round. So we'll go into this space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just 2 loops, and this is just the start of a double crochet, and we're going to do this 3 more times. So again, yarn over, insert your hook into that same space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just 2 loops, then yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and finally yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and now you should have a total of 5 loops on your hook. And we're going to yarn over and pull through all of these loops. And then we're going to chain 1 to finish the stitch. And then we'll move on to the next space, and we'll yarn over, insert our hook, and make sure to grab our loose ends. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then do that 3 more times for a total of 4. And yarn over and pull through all 5 loops and chain 1. So now we've done 2 and we're going to do 14 more for a total of 16 of these double crochet 4 togethers all the way around. And once we're done with round 3, we're going to slip stitch again into the top of our first double crochet 4 together. And now we can pull through with our white yarn and start our final round. And here we can also cut off our green yarn and carry it in our stitches. And just leaving the white yarn hanging after round 1 and then attaching it later on to round 4 will cause this line, but it will be on the inside of the bag, so I'm not too worried about it. Since we're going to turn the circle into a square, we're going to need to use stitches with varying heights. So with the white yarn, I'm going to chain 2 and work 3 double crochets into the first chain space. And again, I'm just going to the right of the very first double crochet 4 together that we did last round. So I'll do 3 double crochets, and then I'll move on to the next chain space, and I'll do 3 treble crochets. To do a treble crochet, we're going to yarn over twice, and then we'll insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, and then we'll yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So this is our first treble crochet, and we're going to do 2 more. So again, we're going to yarn over twice, insert our hook into that same chain space, and yarn over and pull through 2 3 times. So here's our 2 treble crochets, and we're going to do 1 more. And then we're going to chain 2. So this forms our corner, and in that same chain space again, we're going to do 3 more treble crochets. So you can see here that it's starting to look like our very first corner, and we're going to continue with 3 double crochets into our next chain space. And then in our next chain space, we're going to do 3 half double crochets. To do a half double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And then we'll do 1 more, and in the next chain space, we're going to do 3 double crochets again. In the next chain space, we're going to do our corner. So 3 treble crochets, chain 2, and then 3 treble crochets. So you can see a sort of pattern. A corner is the 3 trebles with the chain 2, and then a 3 treble, and then it has the 3 double crochets, and in the center of the side is 3 half double crochets. And we'll continue this pattern all the way around until we reach the end. And so we should finish with 3 half double crochets, and then we'll slip stitch into the first double crochet we made in this round. And to fasten off, chain 1, cut your yarn, and pull through with your hook. And if you want, you can sew in this loose end now, but I'm going to wait until the very end. And now I'm going to make 12 more of these squares for a total of 13, and they're going to have all different colors for the second and third round. So here are all 13 squares, and it's going to be attached like this, where the sides and the bottom are each one folded square, and I'm going to have the wrong side on the inside. So the wrong side is where you can see this white line of my yarn, and I am going to be attaching with slip stitches, but you can sew it all together if you want to. I'm going to be attaching these squares in a way that I can minimize the amount of times that I'll need to fasten off. So the first place I'm going to attach my yarn is going to be the top in the center, and then I'll slip stitch down, connecting the squares that are on top, and then I'll work to the other side of the bag where I can connect the bottom squares, and then I'll go along the other side for the bottom squares, go back up and connect the top squares, and return back to where I started. Now I'll grab my white yarn and attach it to the top center. And to attach it, I'm going to use my hook and go into the chain 2 space in the corner, and I'll pull the yarn through, and I'll tie a double knot. And then I'll insert my hook back into that same chain 2 space, and then I'll also go into the chain 2 space of the square in the upper left corner and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to be slip stitching, so I'll insert my hook into the V of the treble crochet that is right next to the chain 2 space. And then I'll grab the square from the top left corner and I'll go into the treble crochet that is to the left of the chain 2 space. And then I'll finish my slip stitch. And I'm going to connect these two sides of the squares with slip stitches all the way across. Attaching the squares in this way will create a little bump where you slip stitch, and I think it adds texture, which I really like. But you can turn everything inside out first, slip stitch it in the same way, and then turn it back inside out if you want it to be flat. Your very last slip stitch along the side should be into the chain 2 spaces in either square. This is so you won't have any unnecessary holes and your seam will lay flat. And now we'll move on to connecting the green and purple squares in the bottom left together. So first we'll insert our hook into the chain 2 space of the purple square and then through the chain 2 space of the green square. And then we'll complete a slip stitch. And now we'll do the same thing we did with the red and blue squares. We're going to slip stitch all the way across the side. And here's how it's starting to look. We've just gone from the top center down to the bottom left. And now we'll flip our project and start working along the back. And if you placed your squares in a specific place, then make sure to not mix them around. And remember that your last slip stitch should always go into the chain 2 spaces. And now here is where we're going to start working along the back and connecting the green square with the red square. And again, we'll start with a slip stitch into the chain 2 spaces. We've just connected the green and purple by their chain 2 spaces. And since the green is folded over, we're going to go back into the chain 2 space of the green and slip stitch it with the red. So this line we're connecting is directly underneath the line that we've already made. So we've gone from the top center to the bottom left, and now we're just looping around and working along the back, going from the bottom left to the top center. And once we're done, we'll move on to connecting the purple with the green. Once we've worked all the way to the end of the purple and green squares, we're going to flip it around again. And I'm going to place everything back into our starting position. So you can see that we've slip stitched across the top and then looped back around and slip stitched along the bottom. And now we'll flip it again just so we can continue working along the back. And now we're going to join our green and the blue square together. And then we'll move on to the purple and red. And once we reach the end, we're going to flip it back to the starting position. And now we can finish up with this line along the top. And we should reach the center at the very end. And I'm going to end it with a slip stitch in the chain 2 spaces where we attached our yarn. And now you can just leave your yarn connected because we're going to be outlining the top of the bag. We'll start at the bottom right, close up the bottom edge, and go up to the top left, and then turn it over and close up the back. And then we'll do the exact same on the other side. First we'll attach our yarn to the bottom right of the bag, and this time I'm going to pull my yarn through the chain spaces on both squares. And then I'll tie a double knot, pull up a loop, and start slip stitching. So I'll go along this bottom edge and go up towards the top left. And once you intersect with the slip stitches from the last time we went around, and again, the last slip stitch between our red and purple squares should be in the chain 2 space, and we'll cross over the slip stitch line and we'll slip stitch the blue and green squares in their chain spaces. And then we'll slip stitch along until we reach the edge. To recap, we started from the bottom right, went along the bottom edge of the bag, and went up to the top left. And now we're going to turn our piece over and work along that same line, but on the back side of the bag. And once we've done our final slip stitch into the chain 2 spaces, we can fasten off by chaining 1 and cutting our yarn. And now, since we always have to work right to left, we're going to have to flip our bag from the starting position and work from the bottom right to the top left again. And we'll do the same exact thing. So we'll pick up the yarn from where we left off in the top center, and we'll line the top of the bag with slip stitches. This just helps to reinforce the top of the bag and prevents it from stretching out too much. So for every chain 2 space along a square, we'll do a slip stitch, and for every regular stitch, we'll also do a slip stitch. When we do reach a corner, like the top right here, we'll do 3 slip stitches. And once we reach the side of the bag, we'll do a slip stitch into the chain space on the square on the right, a slip stitch into the center, and then a slip stitch in the chain space of the square to the left. And once we're done, we can cut our yarn and pull through. And now let's start on the strap of the bag. For the strap, I'm going to be using an I-cord. An I-cord is basically 3 lines of chains that are attached to each other. And this is great because chains aren't that stretchy, so your bag strap won't be stretching out that much. To do an I-cord, we're going to start with a slip knot. To do a slip knot, it's similar to the magic circle. We're going to hold our yarn over the palm of our hand and make sure that the tail is a little long. Grab the top and wrap it around 2 fingers. Use our hook to go under and over and pull through. And this time we'll remove our fingers and tighten the knot. Now we're going to chain 3. Now insert your hook into the second chain from the hook and pull up a loop. And then insert your hook into the last chain, third from the hook, and pull up another loop. And now you should have 3 loops on your hook, and now we can start making the chains. So we're going to be making them from right to left. So we'll take the first 2 loops off the hook, and you can sort of pinch it to hold them in place, make sure they don't unravel. And then we'll chain 1, and this gives you the first chain on the right. Now we're doing the middle, so insert your hook into the middle loop and chain 1. And then we're going to insert our hook into the left loop and chain 1. Now we can see that we have the 3 chains that we made, and we're going to continue this until we have the length of the strap that we want. So again, we're just going to pull the first 2 loops off our hook, chain 1, reinsert our hook into the middle loop, chain 1, reinsert our hook into the left loop, chain 1. When you decide the length of your strap, take into account what you will be using it for. For example, if you want to hold something really heavy, then you know that your strap will stretch a lot. So then you can make your strap even shorter, anticipating that it will stretch out to be a little longer. Once you're happy with the length of your strap, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And then chain 1 and cut your yarn a little longer to fix it onto the bag. Here is my finished strap. I did 65 rows and it came out to be about 40 centimeters or 16 inches long. And now I'll make another identical strap. There are a lot of different ways that you can attach the strap to your bag. You can just tie it in a knot, or you can slip stitch it on, but I will be sewing it on in a way that it forms sort of loops. So first I'll grab my end and I will thread it through the chain 2 space, and I'll pull this loop through so that it uses up 10 rows of the bag strap. Now if you're doing it this way, then make sure that you make it a little bit longer because your bag strap will be folded over for about 10 rows, so it'll make it an inch or 2 shorter. And when I sew the end of the bag strap back on itself, I'm just weaving my yarn needle in and out along the 3 chains. And once we're done, we're going to have to tie a knot so it won't come loose. So just insert your yarn needle under a loop and then wrap the rest of your yarn around the needle and pull through with your needle, and it should form a knot. And then we can weave this end back into the strap by just running our yarn needle inside of it. And then we'll cut off the excess and attach the other side. And before you attach the strap on the other side, make sure that it's untwisted. So here's how my bag looks now that the straps are attached, and now we can start weaving in all of our loose ends. And first, I like to use my hook to go through the inside of the bag and pull all of the loose ends to the inside of the bag. And then I'll flip my bag inside out and start working on weaving in the ends. The first thing you want to do when weaving in a loose end is make sure that it is secured with a knot. If not, then you can use the same method to tie a knot. And then to hide our loose ends, we're going to go under the stitches with our yarn needle. And then pull it through to the other side. And then we'll turn around, skip one of the stitches so it doesn't pull back through, and we'll go back under those same stitches. And you can do this a few more times and it just makes it really secure. And we'll do this with every single loose end that's left. And we'll cut off all of the excess, and we can turn our bag inside out. And here's the finished product. And that is all for this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like if you did, and comment if you have any questions at all. I'd be happy to help. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.